Inside the Magic, show number 356 for January 30th, 2012. It is Monday, January 30th, 2012. This is show 356 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I'm your host, Ricky Briganti. We do have another great show packed with Disney and theme park news and a whole lot more fun from actually outside of Florida for once, and we'll get to that in a little while. Before we get started with it all, I do invite you to visit InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and so much more. And if you ever have any news, tips, or questions, you can always write to me at Ricky at InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Find out why Adventures by Disney has been announced as the world's leading luxury tour operator. Plan your adventure today. Will it be in North America, South America? How about Europe? Perhaps a more exotic locale like China or Egypt? Whatever the destination is, Adventures by Disney is ready to take you there, and you can book that trip by calling Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387, or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive your free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And by Audible, get a free audiobook download and access to over 85,000 titles to choose from for your iPod or MP3 player, and it's all part of a free trial over at audibletrial.com/Inside the Magic. And of course, thanks very much to listeners and viewers like you and like David Rutherford and Eric Hiles for your donations this week, and all of our monthly recurring donation subscribers as well. And of course, everybody clicking through those affiliate links over on the website. I appreciate all of it. Thank you very much. And now let's get started with this week's trip around the world. So, as I said at the top of the show, it is indeed Monday, not Sunday, the usual recording day for Inside the Magic, and that's because I returned yesterday, a very early morning flight from California, from Disneyland. Michelle and I went to a few days as kind of a surprise, well, not surprise, but a secret getaway, if you will. I was off of Twitter and off of Facebook and just wanted to get away and go to the parks without a special event going on and without all the, live Twittering and all that stuff, just to go to the parks and have some fun. Of course, there was plenty to see and cover, and that's what I'll be talking about a little bit later in this week's show, as well as on next week's show also. So all of you listeners who hear me talking about Walt Disney World all the time and not so much Disneyland, well, this is going to be a time for me to talk about Disneyland even more than usual. But before we get to all of that, I do have plenty of other Disney news to get to, and even a little bit of Inside the Magic related news here at the very top of the show. First up, I want to mention something I've talked about recently, and I can't remember if last week on the show, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this, but it may have been within the last week. It's been such a busy few days that I am losing track of time. But I know I talked about recently the Disney Parks Inside Ears over at DisneyParksInsideEars.com. It's a new sort of social network kind of discussion board that Disney is working on launching. For a while it was up, and then it was down for some fixing of bugs and maintenance and that kind of thing, and then it came back up. And I am one of the first Inside Ears to be invited to join this special community. Where exactly Disney is going with this community, I'm not entirely sure, but you can certainly go and check it out over at DisneyParksInsideEars.com. Not everybody can join yet, though Disney is promising that eventually it will be open to just about anyone who's an enthusiast for Disney theme parks, which of course is everybody who's listening or watching this show. So definitely seems like it's going to be something that's going to evolve into a lot of fun. Good to have an official channel to talk about Disney stuff online. So there's that. I also want to mention that just a few days ago was episode 190 of the Season Pass podcast, and I mention it because I was on it, along with some other names you may be familiar with, Paul Barry from A Window to the Magic, as well as Lou Mongello, another Disney podcaster, and we joined the Season Pass podcast folks over at seasonpasspodcast.com is where you can download that episode 190 and hear us talking about sort of the beginnings of Disney podcasting. We were among the first years and years ago, so if you want to hear us chit-chat about, sort of reminiscing over years gone by, then be sure to download and listen to that. So now let's jump into this week's Disney news, and toward the beginning of this week was some surprising news related to the Disney Look, which is the set of guidelines that cast members must follow when working for Disney as far as how they actually look, their appearance. And Disney has made a change to a decades-old policy where Disney is now allowing cast members to grow beards and goatees. The Disney Look has been around for decades in the Walt Disney Company, and let me just read the official statement from Disney. They wrote, effective Friday, February 3rd, facial hair, specifically beards and goatees, are now an approved option for U.S.-based Walt Disney theme parks and resorts, costumed and non-costumed male cast members, unless otherwise restricted by regulatory codes and standards. As with mustaches, all facial hair, beards, goatees, mustaches, must create an overall neat, polished, and professional look, and must be fully grown in, neatly groomed and well-maintained at no longer than a quarter of an inch in length. So that's the new upcoming, just a few days from now, it will begin beard and goatee policy, so you'll be able to see cast members in the parks pretty soon with some new looks, although it's all going to be neat and pretty, as Disney likes to say, even if you're wearing a beard. In addition, Disney has also added a casual Friday option, not for the cast members in the parks, of course, they're all wearing costumes. They're not going to be able to show up in jeans and a t-shirt, but for those cast members who are not on stage, there will, sort of the backstage area people, there will be a casual Friday option as well, which I'm sure will be most welcome for all those who are not working in the sight of guests. Now, here's a little bit of news that just came out today, actually. This is one of those instances where it's nice to delay the show for a day and have it be on Monday instead of Sunday, because otherwise I'd have to wait till the next show to mention this. That's Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, which we recently talked about on the show as the interactive game that's being put into the Magic Kingdom. It's in testing right now. Well, Disney today said that it's going to make its official debut in late February. They haven't set a specific date, but it's going to be late next month that Sorcerers in the Magic Kingdom will be publicly totally available, not testing anymore. In the meantime, testing continues on select days. It's in 4 lands of the park, of course. It's a game where you, when you go to take part in the interactive adventure through the park, they give you 5 these spell cards, these trading cards, each with a different character on it. You hold it up in front of the magic portals and battle villains throughout the parks. And Disney did confirm today as well that there are indeed 70 total spell cards. Some were speculating that because of different symbols on the cards, maybe there were different decks of cards, but no, it's the symbols on there actually are for different classes or the different rarities of cards. For instance, the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride card, which I definitely need to get my hands on, has a little moon on there, and that means it's an uncommon card. And then there's rare cards, and then there's common cards. Anyway, so there's 70 of those total, and so if you want to build up a whole deck, that's the number to shoot for. And end of February is when you can definitely be assured that if you go to the Magic Kingdom, you'll be able to play. And to answer a quick question in the chat room, yes, you do get to keep the cards for Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. They are free. It's completely free with park admission, of course, to play the game, and you can walk away with them in the end. All right, here's an update to a story we previously talked about, which was that there's going to be a Valentine sort of romantic update to the Magic, the Memories, and You show. Well, Disney recently put out some new details about that, where the show is going to be updated both at Cinderella Castle at Walt Disney World, as well as on It's a Small World out at Disneyland. This is the projection show at night. It's actually going to debut very, very soon, February 1st, just a couple of nights from now. It will indeed feature romantic scenes. Disney said they'll be covering painting It's a Small World and Cinderella Castle in red roses for a sequence, turning it into a beautiful star-filled sky for another one. There will be a stained glass windows featuring some familiar princess characters, and there will also be a sequence that's inspired by Rapunzel, or Tangled rather, that features the floating lantern and the king and the queen standing up on a balcony. That Valentine's Day / romantic edition of the Magic, the Memories in You is going to run until mid-April, so you have quite a while to potentially see it. And then Disney also announced that they're working on a summer version of the show, and the summer version is going to feature turning everything into, well, turning Cinderella Castle into a big sand castle, or It's a Small World's going to be, well, essentially a sand castle as well, and that's just some of what will be seen in that variation. So it's good to see that Disney is keeping good on their word to update the Magic, the Memories, and You over time. I enjoy seeing that show, and I enjoy it even more seeing something different almost every time I go and watch it. So here's some other news that just came out today. Again, great to record it on Monday. Otherwise, this would have waited for 6 more days. It's news about Disney's Art of Animation Resort, which is opening its first phase in May. And Disney has revealed some details about the food area, the food court, that will be adjacent to the main lobby. Rather than your traditional hotel food court that's at, like, all-star movies, for instance, the Disney's Art of Animation Resort is actually going to feature 5 mini shops in what they're calling a landscape of flavors food court. They're still developing the menu specifically, but they did reveal quite a bit about what you'll be able to do. Their emphasis is on being able to customize what you're eating. So there's going to be a soup, salad, sandwich shop in which you'll be able to create your own salad. There will be a caprese sandwich, a buffalo-style turkey sandwich, some house-made potato chips, and other things like that. There's going to be a world flavors shop with Indian African cuisine. For breakfast, you'll be able to have scrambled eggs, tandoor potatoes, Portuguese sausage, slab bacon, and mini naan bread, and or you could get a veggie flatbread sandwich on naan with cauliflower, spinach, and paneer. And then for lunch and dinner, you could get tandoori chicken or shrimp, Mongolian beef with vegetables, mahi-mahi, Portuguese sausage, or roasted acorn squash. A lot of good sounding stuff there, especially for a value resort. Over at the pizza shop, you'll be able to make your own pasta, cheese, and make your own pasta, there will also be cheese and pepperoni pizzas available, as well as meatballs on ciabatta bread. There's going to be a burger shop with a breakfast burger, a steak and eggs breakfast burger, traditional burgers, of course, for lunch and dinner. There's also going to be a surf and turf burger with a crab cake and fried popcorn shrimp, as well as a pastrami cheeseburger topped with pepper jack cheese and a slice of fried green tomato. That one sounds really good to me. There will also be a grab-and-go market shop with drinks, yogurt, bagels, pastries, gourmet cupcakes, and cookies and gelato. In addition to all of that, there will be quite a few drink offerings: fresh fruit smoothies, lemonade, pomegranate limeade, organic teas, beer, wine, coffee, juices, and so there you go. Disney's Art of Animation Resort is going to be home to quite a lot of food. I'm looking forward to eating around the landscape of flavors, as they put it. Okay, so while we're on the subject of food and making everybody hungry, particularly recording this around dinner time on a Monday night, let's talk about the House of Blues, where there's some new menu items at the downtown Disney locations. The new menu includes some grilled flatbreads, a jambalaya now without shrimp, but with chicken and spicy andouille sausage, a Juicy Lucy burger, and a new molten chocolate cake are among just some of the new menu items available there. So I haven't been to House of Blues in quite a while, and that new menu makes me want to go. I'm sure that's the point. I'll have to check that out pretty soon. All right, let's turn away from Disney here for actually some pretty major news. Universal Orlando, as planned, announced this week quite a few new experiences that will be debuting this year, 2012. Jim Timon, Senior Vice President of Entertainment, as well as Mark Woodbury, President of Universal Creative, were on hand for an announcement webcast on Wednesday in which Universal Orlando unveiled quite a few new attractions, some of which have some striking comparisons to some Disney attractions that are really hard to not make that comparison. And so for the first one, I'm going to actually turn it over to Jim Timon as part of this webcast, and we'll let you decide exactly how similar this particular attraction is to something that may be familiar to Disney fans.
Our brand new nighttime show, Universal Cinematic Spectacular, 100 Years of Movie Memories. The new show has been created in partnership with Universal Pictures and celebrates this year's centennial anniversary of the film studio. Our guests will be able to relive some of the most powerful and emotional moments from Universal Pictures' iconic films, all projected on cutting-edge waterfall screens within the Universal Studios lagoon. Now, the screens will be surrounded by colorful pyrotechnics and soaring fountains that will reach heights of more than 100 feet, all set to a powerful musical score. You'll be able to see it from everywhere around the lagoon. It will literally surround you. The new show starts this spring, runs all summer, and then on select nights throughout the end of the year. And we're especially excited to announce today that our new show will be narrated by Academy Award-winning actor and recent Golden Globe Cecil B. DeMille honoree, Morgan Freeman. This experience will take our guests on a journey through epic cinematic moments filled with heroes, horror, laughter, good versus evil, and triumph. And I can't wait for our guests to experience.
Well, I can't wait for it either, and I really couldn't wait for it the first time when it was called World of Color. Okay, maybe I'm being a little bit mean, but it's kind of true. I mean, there's a pretty obvious comparison there between World of Color over at Disney California Adventure at the Disneyland Resort and what Universal Orlando has announced here, this cinematic spectacular. You know, I'm sure it's going to end up being quite different, in fact. On the surface, sure, there's projections on water screens, there's colorful fountain, there's pyrotechnics, and it's over a lagoon. Yeah, it's really sounding like World of Color, but that doesn't mean that Disney has an exclusive right to having a lagoon show with fountains. I mean, after all, when World of Color debuted, everybody was comparing that to the Bellagio over at Las Vegas. So it's always going to be something being compared to something else, and I look forward to actually having a show like this in Orlando, because I don't think World of Color is coming to Orlando anytime soon, and I love it. I just saw World of Color for the however many time a couple of nights ago, and it is fun. It is enjoyable, it is a great show, and I look forward to seeing a different take on that concept from Universal Orlando. Of course, Universal has 100 years now of movie making, and it'll be good to see more than just animation. You know, World of Color, except for the pirate sequence, is all animation, and it'll be good to see what Universal comes up with as far as their iconic films. I'm sure there'll be plenty of E.T. and Jurassic Park and Back to the Future and King Kong and Universal Monsters and, you know, all that good stuff. That is what I am looking forward to seeing on these big nighttime waterfall screens. So it'll be fun. I don't care if it's exactly the same as World of Color or not. In fact, I hope it is, because that means we'll have something World of Color like here in Orlando, which would be fantastic. But that's not the only thing Universal Orlando announced recently. They announced their Universal Superstar Parade, and this one is going to feature essentially 4 groups of all new floats, and it's going to have show stops and dance numbers. And most exciting to me is that there's going to be a lot of SpongeBob in this. I love SpongeBob, and it's not only going to feature a float devoted to Bikini Bottom with the pineapple under the sea and SpongeBob himself, but also Patrick and Squidward, which is fun. Universal is also going to be having a meet and greet for all those characters, which is great as well. In addition, they're going to have Dora and Diego from Nickelodeon. They're going to have Despicable Me characters, and then for some reason they're going to have the guy from Hop, the bunny from the movie Hop. I'm not sure anybody actually saw Hop, but they're going to have that character there. You know, many people are comparing this Parade to Block Party Bash over at Disney, but I don't think it's necessarily exactly the same. It is a group of characters, and they're going to stop and dance. But again, just because a parade has characters and they have a show stop and they dance doesn't mean it's exactly the same as something else. I'm sure it's going to have a completely different feel to it, and really, it has SpongeBob, and that's all I care about. That'll be fun. Speaking of Despicable Me, by the way, the Cinematic Spectacular is going to be debuting in spring of this year. The Superstar Parade also is going to be debuting in spring this year. And then in summer this year is another attraction over at Universal Orlando, the Despicable Me ride that we've already mentioned. It's been known for quite a while that they've been working on that, so they revealed just a little bit more about it, more specifically that it's going to be opening in summer of 2012. Not too much more to say about that, other it's going to be a 3D sort of motion simulator ride through Despicable Me. Head to our YouTube channel if you want to see more from that. In addition, Universal's been talking about reanimating The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, which is a fantastic ride, and they're going to make it look even cooler than ever with some new, highly detailed, beyond HD projections, and that's going to be reopening in March, so just a couple of months from now. Really looking forward to that. They've also revealed that Stan Lee, Spider-Man co-creator, is going to have a cameo somewhere in the ride now, which Stan Lee is just everywhere, and he's hilarious, and it'll be fun to see him as part of the ride as well. Also going on at Universal Orlando is something I'm really excited about, the Hollywood Drive-In Mini Golf, and it just looks fun and spooky. There's two sides to it, a sci-fi side and a haunted side, and that's going to be opening next month, just a few weeks from now, and no specific date yet, but February is when that is going to be opening, and I am really looking forward to playing that course. It could become Orlando's best mini golf course, or at least one of the best out there. Disney's are certainly pretty fun, and actually a lot of them are. I'm a sucker for mini golf anyway, so it should be fun there. Then also next month, a new Blue Man Group show is going to be debuting. It's actually going to sort of have previews in the early days of February, and then it'll officially launch in about the third week of February or so, near the end of the month. And finally, all this is one part of one giant announcement. The last bit was Wet n Wild, which is sort of associated with Universal Orlando. It's not part of the Universal Orlando Resort necessarily, but it's right there. And anyway, they're debuting a new interactive family water play area. Just worth mentioning there. I'm not a big fan of Wet n Wild personally, but I'll go check out the play area once it opens up. So that is all I'm going to say about the Universal announcements this week. If you want to find out more, see the full video webcast announcement, and see even more artwork and all that kind of good stuff, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net, and we've got it all there. Now let's jump coasts over to Disneyland here for a moment and talk about Cars Land, where I actually have a good deal to say about Cars Land soon, because I was just there, essentially. Not in Cars Land, because it's not open yet, but pretty close. But I'm going to hold those thoughts until next week. What I am going to say right now is that Disney has released a fun sort of advertising image that their Yellow Shoes creative group put together, and shows dueling Lightning McQueen-style racers that'll be part of the Radiator Springs Racers big e-ticket ride that'll be in Cars Land when it debuts in a few months this summer. And it shows side-by-side a red car and a yellow car with happy-looking families in each one, and they're racing through Ornament Valley and Radiator Springs and all that stuff. So it should be a pretty fun ride when that opens up. If you want to see that artwork, well, those of you watching the video version, you just did see the artwork, but you can head on over to the website as well. Now, recently, that's it for Disneyland for the moment, because I'll be talking plenty more about that later. Let's jump over to overseas to Disneyland Paris. Recently, I mentioned Disneyland Paris turning 20. They're going to be having a new show called Disney Dreams near their really elaborate castle, and this is going to be a really elaborate show. And Disney unveiled some new artwork for that show that looks pretty interesting. Again, sort of some World of Color inspiration here. Around the castle, there'll be some water streams and projections and lasers and some other special effects as well. Disney says they've never combined all of the effects that they're going to use in this Disney Dreams show all at the same time. They've never done that before, so that should be pretty interesting. That's going to debut April 1st of this year at Disneyland Paris. Some more big news this week came out of Disney Cruise Line, where they had some big announcements for 2013. They announced their new itineraries that are going to be, the Disney Cruise Line is going to be sailing next year. The new itineraries include Italy, Greece, Turkey, Alaska, the Caribbean, and Miami is where they're going to have a new port. That's the biggest of the announcements, and notably absent from the itineraries is Mexico. So if you want to find out all the details about all the new sailings that'll be offered in 2013, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net to get the full rundown. And of course, just to be totally clear, that is Miami, Florida. I know there are a couple other Miamis out there. Miami, Ohio, for instance. Wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for Disney Cruise Line to go to Miami, Ohio. So yeah, it is Miami, Florida. So let's see. This week, the 2012 Academy Award nominations came out, turning to movies now, obviously. And Disney didn't fare so well at the Academy Award nominations this time around. Really, Disney only got 2 nods for original productions, 13 total if you include their Disney distributed films, but for original Disney productions, only 2. One of which for Best Original Song, Brett McKenzie's Man or Muppet from The Muppets, of course. And there's only one other song nominated in that category, so I would say the Muppets have a pretty good shot of taking this category. I mean, it's a 50-50 at this point. The other song that's nominated is Real in Rio from the film Rio. And I would have to give it to the Muppets. Between the two, the song is something that was absolutely stuck in my head. I know it was stuck in many people's heads after the film came out. And so let's hope for a win there. At least Disney perhaps will get that one. In addition, Disney also got a nomination for Best Animated Short Film, the category for a Pixar short called La Luna. You're probably wondering, what in the world is La Luna? I don't remember seeing that, and that's because it hasn't technically hit theaters yet, which is a little weird. It's one of those things that it was screened in time for the Oscars, but it actually will be sort of widely debuted in front of Brave when that opens in June. So Pixar very well may win an Oscar for a short film prior to most people even seeing that short film. But anyway, notably absent this year from the animated feature film category was Pixar. Cars 2, their big film, did not receive any nominations. In fact, it's the first Pixar film to receive no Oscar nominations. There were also no nominations for Winnie the Pooh either. In the animated feature film category, the nominees are Rango, A Cat in Paris, Kung Fu Panda 2, Puss in Boots, and a Disney distributed film called Chico and Rita. But again, no Disney original productions for that category, which is quite unusual. The other Disney distributed movies that did receive nominations are The Help, Warhorse, and Real Steel, but all those were produced elsewhere. Let's talk D23 here for a moment, where this week the Disney Fan Club released some new benefits and discounts. I'll just kind of rattle these off for you. From Thomas Kincaid, D23 members can receive 20% off an order at thomaskincaid.com. 10% off Nikki Bryan Spas, special D23 rates at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. Let's see, D23 member discounts at House of Blues. So if you want to try some of those menu items I mentioned earlier, you can get a discount as a D23 member. $5 off a ticket at Johnson Space Center in Houston. 20% off a single admission ticket to Miami Science Museum. Presumably, again, that's Miami, Florida. And the Howard Johnson Anaheim, right near Disneyland, is 15% off an entire stay. Little mismatched, you can get 15% off there. 10% off Apricot Lane Boutique at Downtown Disney Anaheim. $23 off purchases of $149 or more at the Collectibles Boutique Charming Shop in Orange County, California. And 20% off Fantagraphics books. In addition, as of February 1st, which is just a couple of days from now, D23 members booking at Aulani can receive vintage work of custom matted art from Walt Disney's 1937 animated short Hawaiian Holiday. And actually, you don't even have to book at Aulani. You just have to be interested in, not even specifically Aulani, it's related to Aulani, but you can just be interested in Disney Vacation Club in general. All you have to do is learn more about Disney Vacation Club through a little phone not ceremony, that's not the right word, little presentation, I suppose, and you can get the free artwork as a D23 member. So there you go. Now, one additional one. This is another late breaking, if you will, bit of news from today. D23 just announced that D23 members, a very small select group, will be able to walk the red carpet at the big Hollywood premiere of John Carter in very soon, actually. You'll be able to watch the celebrity arrivals. You'll be able to see the movie, of course. There will be special guests and other surprises. Tickets are going to be available this next Wednesday, February 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. The cost is completely free, plus a $5 processing fee, and parking is $10 in the garage. So really, it's going to be $15. You can be a D23 member plus one, and you'll be able to sign up on the D23 website. And the actual premiere itself is Wednesday, February 22nd at the Regal Cinema at LA Live in Los Angeles. The registration there, if you manage to get a hold of a ticket, will begin at 5 p.m. with the red carpet at 6 p.m. and the film at 7 p.m. So good luck for any interested D23 members there. If you happen to get a ticket and you attend that, I'd love to hear about that event. Continuing now with movie topics, Inside the Magic listener Ryan wrote to me to let me know about some upcoming films that'll be making their way to Blu-ray. Aladdin's going to be getting the Diamond Edition treatment for spring of 2013, Pocahontas 1 and 2, and both Rescuers films will be 2 movie combo packs this summer, and The Aristocats is coming out on Blu-ray on August 7th. So some good news there, some excellent films coming out on Blu-ray. And Disney this week announced a new Disney Visa card. It's now, there's the regular one. There's no annual fee. Well, now there's an annual fee version that gets you a few extra perks. It's called Disney's Premier Visa card from Chase. And this one lets you earn 2% rather than just 1%, 2% in Disney Dream Reward dollars when you shop at restaurants, grocery stores, gas stations, Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, and the Disney Store, and then 1% everybody else. And in addition, you can now earn not only a Disney Dream Reward dollars and redeem those for, Disney stuff, but you can also redeem for airline travel, which is a really nice perk. There will be new double-sided card designs as well. All that costs you $49 a year. There are, of course, some introductory rates for APRs and all that kind of stuff. You can find out all that information at getDisneyCreditCard.com, or if you already have a Disney Visa and you want to bump it up to the Disney Premier Visa, you can go to UpgradeMyDisneyCard.com. There's going to be no cap on the number of reward dollars that are earned, and you get a $50 onboard credit. This is not an advertisement, by the way. I know it sounds like one. I'm just reading a press release, essentially. So I don't care if you get the Disney Visa or not. That's completely up to you. I have one. I have the original one. I don't think I'm going to get the Premier version. I'm actually using a Virgin America card lately so that I can get lots of points for flying out to California and back. That's a good card. So I just wanted to make that clear. It sounded very ad-like, and it's not. And with that said, that'll do it for your news from around the world this week. So, as I said, I just got back from Disneyland, so this week's tip is actually for me, something that I sort of, not really figured out, but kind of realized on my trip here. It's been a long time since I had a schedule-free trip. I've been, of course, I go locally to the Walt Disney World parks quite regularly, and I usually go there because this is happening or that's happening. And then even flying out to California, I've been going to Disneyland for big special events as well. So that was kind of the point of this whole trip, was to just have a regular trip. And in doing that, I kind of forgot how to deal with a regular trip, so I wanted to throw this out there. When going on a Disney vacation, this is probably obvious to most of you, it's always good to kind of check park hours in advance, check your hotel hours, opening time, closing time, extra magic hours, time, early entry times, hours when pools are going to be open and closed, and most importantly, when food is going to be available. I kind of ran into a few issues when I was out there where I thought the park was closing at one time. It was actually closing an hour earlier. I thought food would be available here, and then it was actually not, and et cetera, et cetera. It's just kind of one of those things where if you just a little bit of planning in advance can save you some headache and some extra walking and all that kind of thing. So there's my tip. Everybody else out there, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. And before we continue talking about Disneyland even further, of course, I said that Disney Visa thing was not an ad. Well, now I have something that is an ad, but it's certainly a worthwhile ad, and it is from Theme Park Connection. I've been talking about them for a few weeks now. ThemeParkConnection.com is their website. Locally, out here in Orlando, just about 15 minutes north of the Magic Kingdom, you will find Theme Park Connection's warehouse and store and news store. They've really been putting together, if you went there for their grand opening just a few weeks ago, you're going to go back now, and it's going to be a totally different store. They've been working on upgrading it with new fixtures and more things to look at and more organization, and it's just a wonderful place to be. It's open Monday through Friday over in Winter Garden. You can find Disney and theme park collectibles, props, costume signs, trading pins, and so much more. And then, of course, if you can't be there in person, you can check out their online eBay store. You'll find links and directions and information, and, of course, their eBay store as well, all over at their website. So check it out over at themeparkconnection.com. So now let's talk Disneyland. I've said it numerous times on this week's show already. I just got back from Disneyland yesterday. It was fun. It always is fun. It was great to just spend a couple of free days in the park, just taking everything in. But that's not actually what I'm going to be talking about this week. One of the reasons I wanted to go out there right now is for something that I mentioned, I think, on last week's show. Disneyland Hotel specifically has finished finally their big renovation. They've been working on it for about 2 years now. Big renovation, lots of construction. I stayed at Disneyland Hotel a few years ago, in fact. I don't remember. It was maybe 5 or 6 years ago the first time I stayed there, and I thought it was all right. I was not terribly impressed at the time. It seemed like it needed an update, and sure enough, for the last 2 years, that's exactly what it has gotten. And now I spent 3 nights there. 3 nights? Let's see. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's 4 nights. Okay. I stayed 4 nights there. And I told you I lost track of time this week. And you know what? I really, really enjoyed my stay at the Disneyland Hotel this time around. It has become such a wonderful place to stay and to walk around and to simply enjoy. And it's you can call this sort of a resort report, if you will. I don't think I've called it that or done anything like that in a number of years, but that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to kind of walk you through everything that is new and wonderful that I enjoyed at Disneyland Hotel, and maybe next time you fly out to Disneyland for a trip, you'll want to book there as well, because I really honestly did enjoy it. There was very few negative things that I could say about the Disneyland Hotel as it stands now post renovation. So let's start talking about starting just from the entrance. They've upgraded it really from the outside and the inside, everywhere through and through. If you've been to Disneyland Hotel before, it's strikingly different now. I mean, the big towers are essentially the same. They've been freshened up and have this wonderful glowing blue look at night, but for the most part it is a different feel to the hotel. Very retro Disney is what Disneyland Hotel is, of course, as it should be. It's been there for decades. It was the first Disney hotel, and for those of you watching the video version of the show, as I'm kind of talking through this, I'm now going to go to a sort of video walkthrough of what I'm talking about as well, and I'm going to be posting a video similar to this on InsideTheMagic.net in a day or two, maybe later this week. So all those of you not watching the video will be able to see that as well. But beginning sort of in the main entrance lobby area, even when you drive up, that big Mickey statue, the big gaudy Mickey statue is gone. It's not there anymore out front. And as soon as you enter in and walk into the lobby, there's a noticeable difference to what you're going to see. The lobby of the Disneyland Hotel has this great blue glow to it. It's very clean, very shiny. It's not quite futuristic. It's not quite like the contemporary out here at Walt Disney World. It's got some great retro touches, some artwork, and it's just a really wonderful, sort of inviting area. Then you move outside to beyond the main building, and the main lobby is in the Fantasy Tower. There are actually 3 towers of the Disneyland Hotel. The towers are the Fantasy Tower, the Adventure Tower, and the Frontier Tower. They have been renamed, and they're sort of in a C shape, and they always have been. But they now are themed, not really themed, but inspired. The decor is inspired by all of the sort of history of Disneyland and all the great retro touches that Disney fans really love. Artwork and models and maquettes and music, and as you're walking around, there's just so much to see and look at. It's not overwhelming. It's not like being in a theme park, but it's like a tribute to a theme park. There's signs out in front of each tower. The Fantasy one has Dumbo on it, and it really gives you that impression of, this is indeed the Fantasy Tower. It's inspired by Fantasyland, and it's just a fun, a fun motif to the hotel without being sort of in-your-face Disney. I mean, yes, there's Disney all over it, but it's a tasteful Disney. The Adventure Tower has a Jungle Cruise-inspired sign outside with hippo and elephant, and as soon as you step inside the Adventure Tower, then you see maquettes from the Jungle Cruise as well. Let's have some adventure music here if we're going to be talking about the Adventure Tower here. You've got some elephant maquettes, some of the funny gorillas that you see in the Jungle Cruise, as well as a giraffe, and all of that is sort of in the Adventure Tower lobby area. It's not really a lobby, more of an entry area. And then you move on to the Frontier Tower with the Mark Twain, the river boat, and outside is a great geyser and waterfall area. A lot of people were complaining about the old waterfalls of Disneyland Hotel going away. Well, this is almost a tribute to that with this big geyser, very frontier looking. And then you step inside the Frontier Tower, and it's all shades of sort of brown and gives a rustic feel, but not exactly rustic. It still feels very comfortable and like a hotel. It's not like Wilderness Lodge or anything like that, or Fort Wilderness for that matter. The coolest part about the Frontier Tower is a huge model of Big Thunder Mountain. This is essentially the original Imagineering model that you can walk around. It's under plexiglass, and you get up close and see what Tony Baxter and his team were working from to develop Big Thunder Mountain back in the 80s, which is just a fantastic sight. You could probably spend 10, 15, 20 minutes just staring at all the little details, maybe even longer if you really like Big Thunder Mountain. It's a great sight. I'm sure it's been touched up since then, since the original days, because it's on display now. And I actually saw them cleaning this plexiglass every single morning to make sure it's sparkling. And even after people were putting their fingers on it and getting their faces on it and everything, I saw cleaning guys coming through and touching it up and polishing it and really making sure that it is a centerpiece for the Frontier Tower. And it's a really nice addition, just one of these great things that doesn't have to be in a hotel, but it is sort of just an added bonus. Even if you're not staying at Disneyland Hotel, I encourage just going over there and walking around. You don't have to have a key card to get to any of this. You can just go check it out. This is the kind of thing you would see at like the D23 Expo. It's just a plain cool feature. So then we move on to the actual rooms themselves, and the rooms of Disneyland Hotel are pretty much the same throughout all of the towers. It's not like you're going to go into a Frontier room or a Adventure room. They're all going to be the same room, and they have been completely redone since the old Disneyland Hotel days, and there's a lot of really excellent features throughout these rooms. Before I talk about the beds and the showers and all of that, I want to play some special bit of audio here, and those of you watching the video, I'll resume the video here in a second to where you can, this is a special extra feature. The headboards of the rooms at the Disneyland Hotel have fiber optic fireworks in them over sort of a carving of Sleeping Beauty Castle, and you flip the switch next to the bed to activate the fiber optic. And well, here you can just find out what happens when you flip the switch. It's a lot of fun. There is some sound involved. So here we go. We're getting close to the switch, and little Tinkerbell next to the switch that has fireworks on it. So a little bit of music box music plays there when you turn on the fireworks, and then the fiber optics stay on afterward, but the music ceases, and you can just leave them on all night as a great little night light if you want. I preferred to turn them off because they were actually surprisingly bright, but it is a great touch. Now that for those of you watching the video version, I'm going to move away from video for a second because I've got some additional photos that I want to share of the room itself. Starting with the main room for Disneyland Hotel is, I'm talking about not suites, I'm not talking about any kind of a multi-room thing, I'm just talking about the standard sort of Disneyland Hotel room. We were in a king bedroom, though there are different variations of it, but it's a very cozy room. It's very warm feeling. As I said, there's this big fiber optic headboard with Sleeping Beauty Castle on it, but it's not huge. I mean, it's huge, but it's not overwhelming. It's not anything that's going to beat you over the head with Disney. It's just the right amount of Disney. The bed is a little bit crunchy, like sound-wise, as you're moving around. It's definitely a loud bed, but it is comfortable. I certainly slept very soundly as I was, crawling into bed every night. Of course, I had been walking around the theme parks every day, and I don't know how anybody couldn't sleep soundly after walking around in the parks. But I never once found the bed or the pillows to be uncomfortable by any means. There's some chairs, there's a desk, all the usual. There's enough space for you to kind of stretch out. And, if someone's sleeping and somebody else wants to be on the computer, there's free internet. There's multiple outlets to be found throughout the room, which is really nice. I could charge up all my equipment without a problem. There's, big windows on the side for you to look out, and we'll talk about the view here in a moment. And it's just a nice, cozy stay. If you look down on the ground, you'll see sort of an ornate design of gold and blue, and of course it has some hidden Mickeys worked into it, and throughout the room there are some hidden Mickeys as well throughout the decor. There's a great black and white bit of artwork on the wall that shows a whole bunch of Disney, sort of black and white close-ups of various elements throughout the Disney parks, which is nice. It's fun to just kind of look through all this sort of collage of images from the hotel, or rather from the theme parks, and pick out all the familiar sights from there. Now moving on to the restroom, the bathroom area. Sorry, I'm just flipping through pictures here, and I actually seem to be missing the main picture of the bathroom. But you can imagine it's a bathroom. It's nice. There's a counter and a sink and a shower and all of that kind of good stuff. What I do have is some close-ups of some of the fixtures in there. For those of you watching the video version, you can see there's Mickey Mouse handles for the sink. There's a Mickey Mouse handle for the shower. There's also some very subtle hidden Mickeys to be found in the shower tile as well, which you can just barely see in this photo, which is nice. It's subtle Mickey. It's not like overwhelmingly, Mickey heads, 3 circles everywhere you look. Just a little bit more subtle, which is always nice. Now, I mentioned the view, and for me, this was what sold me, essentially, on this hotel. When I walked in the room, we had a 9th floor room, and we paid a little bit extra to get the higher up room to get the pool view, and it was worth every penny, because the view from up there, I could have just not gone to the parks. I could have just sat there at the window and looked out at night over the pool area outside. And I've talked about the new pool area to some extent on the show before, a few months ago when I was out there and I rode the monorail slides and all of that. I talked about that, but seeing it from 9 stories up at night, glowing with colors, and the waterfall going, and the Disneyland sign, the retro Disneyland sign, lit up out there. It was just a phenomenal sight, and they have done such an amazing job with the new pool area that is now complete. It's something I'll talk about a little bit more in just a second, but it's just a gorgeous sight to look out there. It is nice, especially higher up. I really can't recommend it more to be up high and just looking out over the courtyard. Of course, there's different sides you could potentially see out to the, toward Disneyland, maybe see the fireworks and that kind of thing. But you'll notice that there's no balcony. There's no you can't open the windows even. So you're not going to have that, unfortunately. I really kind of wish there was a balcony, but I can understand not having it. The buildings have a really clean look on the outside with just solid glass. And I really just I enjoyed that. So let's see, for those of you still watching the video version, let's go back to the video and continue on and talk a bit about the pool of the Disneyland Hotel. Which, for me, the pool, if these rooms weren't great enough, the pool is just fantastic. I have, as I said, mentioned the monorail slides before. I've put video online of me going down the monorail slides, which is great. But now Disney has finished the E-ticket and the D-ticket pools, which are right next to the monorail slide pool, right in the middle of all three of the towers of Disneyland Hotel. And it is... it's a wonderful, inviting pool environment in the middle. The old Neverland pool at Disneyland Hotel from before they started all this construction was a nice pool, but it was not very inviting. It was very walled off. Of course, you have to have a key card to get into this pool area, and the current one and the old one. And for those, not be able to access the Neverland pool, you could barely even see in there. And now it's just this wonderful, lush, palm tree lined area that is just a great place to, even if you're not going to go in the pool, you can hang out and be surrounded by these towers. It doesn't even completely feel like you're at Disneyland anymore today. It feels like you entered this sort of retro world of Disneyland awesomeness. It's just a fun place to sit around, and they've just done a really nice job at what the pools look like. The E-ticket pool and the D-ticket pool are called that because of the tiles that actually line the pools themselves. And here, for those of you watching the video version, I'm going to cut to another video where you can see the actual E-tickets. The old E-tickets from Disneyland with the different lands on it and the different attractions are tiles along the side of the pool, and they go repeatedly throughout the whole area as you're swimming around. And the D-ticket pool and the E-ticket pool are not like highly themed pools. They're just big open kind of curvy spaces. You don't find slides, you don't find ups and downs and things like that. It's just a big open area for you to swim in. And when I was there, it was a little bit cold, and the pools, they were trying to heat them, but it was still a bit too cold for me. I was kind of shivering as I was going there, so I didn't spend a lot of time in there, but I imagine during slightly warmer times, it would be a wonderful time swimming around in there. And the D-ticket pool is the one that's closer to the monorail slides, which are closer to the Frontier Tower, if that gives you any kind of indication as to where things are. There's a bridge that goes over the pools, which is really nice for those who aren't able to even get into the pool area. If you don't have a key card, you're not staying there. If you just want to visit Disneyland Hotel, which, again, I do encourage you to do, you can actually walk over the pool area without actually going in the pool area, so you can see it and see what it's all about without even staying there, which is really nice. Sort of give you a feel for it all without having to plunk down the money to get a key card or know somebody to let you in. So the pools are nice, the pools are wonderful, and I certainly enjoyed the spas as well. There's a Mickey themed jacuzzi and a Minnie Mouse themed jacuzzi, which is really just a big round jacuzzi that has Mickey ears or Minnie ears painted off to the side. So minorly themed, but certainly enjoyable there as well. Now, one of the nicest parts of Disneyland Hotel, again, is something that anybody can experience. You don't have to be staying there, and it's something that I know I've already talked about on the show, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here talking about it all over again. But that is the addition of the new restaurants. The new here, actually, let's get some more appropriate music for these. It is Trader Sam's and Tangaroa Terrace, which are wonderful. There's a seating area just outside there with a nice fire pit, but then the sort of Polynesian-themed area slash bar slash restaurant slash hangout slash whatever you want to call it is just one of the most enjoyable places to be around Disneyland now, and you don't have to stay at the Disneyland Hotel to enjoy it. But for me, staying in the Adventure Tower, hopping on the elevator and just going straight down to Trader Sam's on a whim was really nice to be able to do that. It's a good advantage for staying there. The Trader Sam's is in addition to alcoholic beverages, there's some non-alcoholic beverages. There's great finger foods, lots of appetizers, and then over at Tangaroa Terrace, there's some great food as well. And I know I've already talked about all of this on a previous show, so I'm not going to keep going on about it. But what I haven't talked about is another restaurant that's at Disneyland as well that I had never dined at until this trip, and it's over in, let's see, it's not in any of the towers, actually. It's in the convention area of Disneyland Hotel. And it's Steakhouse 55, and we'll kind of make this a little restaurant review of sorts here, mixed in with the hotel review. Steakhouse 55 is serving breakfast as well as dinner, and we tried both. Michelle and I actually weren't planning on going there for breakfast, but we got up and we were hungry, and we were at Disneyland Hotel, so we decided to head on in there for breakfast, and we had already made dinner reservations the following night for dinner, so we tried both, and it was quite an enjoyable restaurant. The decor is really nice in there. It sort of has a feeling of an old-time Hollywood classy restaurant, and it's not overwhelmingly themed. There's great photos on the walls that have all these old Hollywood celebrities. There's pictures of Walt Disney hanging out and dining, and in addition, there's also people like Humphrey Bogart, Clark Gable, Lauren Bacall, all that kind of era of movie stars hanging out in restaurants and just chit-chatting with each other. And we quickly noticed that Disney had clearly photoshopped cigarettes out of many of the pictures, which I thought was a little odd. But that aside, it's a nice feeling to Steakhouse 55. But of course, you don't necessarily go to a restaurant only for the feeling. You go there for the food. And for breakfast, I had an all-American breakfast, which was great. It was only about $12, which was not too bad for getting a bagel and some sausage and some eggs and some potatoes and some grapes. A good hearty big meal, actually more than I planned on eating that day because I was having a Monte Cristo about 3 hours later over at the Blue Bayou. But it was very good. And Michelle had a French toast meal, which was very similar, but with French toast, and she enjoyed it very well. It was not overpriced by any means, which was nice to have a good sit-down table service breakfast with some quality food that didn't cost an arm and a leg. And then when we returned for dinner, it was, not entirely the experience perhaps I was expecting. It is called Steakhouse 55, so we both got steaks, but we ordered quite a few other things as well, and it was a good experience, but I wouldn't necessarily say I'm going to rush back to go again soon. I had a really good pina colada after kind of mulling over the menu, what I wanted to drink. I don't normally drink alcoholic drinks. In fact, I very, very, very rarely do. But for some reason, that one sounded really good to me that night, and it ended up being quite tasty. It was very light on the alcohol, so that was good. It was well put together. Pina colada just kind of tastes like vacation. That's what that drink is all about. And let's see, I'm still playing adventure music here in the background. We'll go back to the fantasy music. Continuing on with Steakhouse 55. I had a Caesar salad that was it was good. There was nothing wrong with it. There was a great Parmesan crisp on top, along with a little tiny amount of olive tapenade. But for the most part, it was just your average, ordinary Caesar salad that was well prepared, but not necessarily worth the $10 that I paid for it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting that for the price. If it had been maybe half as much, it would have been probably good. But I have to imagine it was because of the Parmesan crisp that really drove up that price, because it was a well-prepared piece of cheese, crispy yumminess. Michelle got the onion soup that she enjoyed very much, though she had said she previously got it at room service a number of years ago, and for whatever reason, apparently they prepare the soup differently in room service versus in the restaurant. When you get it in room service, they put a wonderful layer of Gruyere cheese on top, but when you get it in the restaurant, that is not there. You just get the sort of brothy soup with little onion crispies in there, and she said it was very good, but she definitely missed the cheese layer. And then that was our starter. Moving on to dinner, Michelle got the filet steak, which we both ordered our steaks medium rare. Mine came out bordering on medium well, and hers was more medium. Needless to say, I sent mine back. She cooperated with hers because it was a filet and it was just naturally tender, and I tasted hers as well, and it was very good. It was a great piece of meat. The outside was a little bit chewy, largely due to the seasoning that they put on the outside, but it was a good steak. I got the ribeye on the waiter's recommendation, which was a huge steak, and as I said, mine came out closer to medium well, sort of medium in parts, medium well in parts, and even on the edges, it was bordering on well done, and I was just not happy with that. I really wanted medium rare, and so he sent it back, got me a new one, and I was much, much happier with the second one that they brought out, which was most definitely medium rare, and scalding hot when it came out. It just came straight off the grill, and I enjoyed it the second time around, but was not blown away. It was an expensive steak, and hers was too. Both were over $30. Mine was closer to $40, and so for what it was, I was not extremely impressed. It was good, but not like $40 good. So I don't know, for somewhere that's called Steakhouse 55, I would think steak being the primary thing on the menu, it would just completely blow me away, and this steak did not completely blow me away, unfortunately. However, the side dish, we got the au gratin potatoes, were fantastic, and the waiter was very kind to us because of the issue with my steak. He brought out a second helping of the au gratin potato since I had already put half of it on my plate the first time around, and it was just this wonderful burnt cheesy goodness on top, nice and moist and juicy, mixed in with these really thin slices of potatoes, sort of formed into a cake almost. Very, very delicious. I really, really enjoyed that. And in addition, to make up for my my steak issue, they also offered us a couple of desserts on the house, which really helped things because dessert was fantastic. We were stuffed by the end. I mean, my steak was like 16 ounces or something, which I didn't even come close to finishing it, but I ate as much as I could. But we still managed to find some room for dessert. We got a root beer sort of trio of desserts. One is a little glass of a root beer float sort of thing. Then there were some root beer infused cake cookie sort of things in the middle, and then on the right was a root beer swirly. It would probably help if I knew what all this was called. I can't remember what he told me, but it was all very good. Particularly the dome-shaped root beer gooey yumminess. I'm clearly at a loss for words on how to describe it at the moment, but I would recommend it 10 times over. I would recommend going to Steakhouse 55 just to get this root beer dessert. It tasted like a light, sweet, almost pudding, but with root beer definitely infused into it to the point where I could actually almost taste the carbonated bubbliness of the root beer while eating it. That's the best way I can describe it. It is such a unique thing, and that's why I'm having a hard time describing it. The root beer float, easy to say. Root beer cookie / cake sort of things, easy to say. This other dome of pudding root beer yumminess, not so easy to describe. You just have to taste it. In addition, to go, since that was more than enough for us because we were stuffed at that point, we walked away with the 21-layer cake, which is enormous piece of cake. Comes with some ice cream, which unfortunately melted before I had a chance to actually dive into this cake the next day. Also came with some candied walnuts, and it was absolutely delicious. In fact, I still have some that I brought all the way from California here in Florida that I plan on snacking on at some point. And definitely very, very good. I'm sure it would have been even better had I eaten it the night that they served it, but I ate it, the next day, and now it's still sitting in the fridge. So probably not quite as fresh, but definitely a good dessert there, and huge. Make sure you share it with someone. So, I've been going on and on and on and on about Disneyland Hotel. How about we sort of reach a summary here of what the new Disneyland Hotel is all about. My favorite parts of staying at the new Disneyland Hotel is certainly the view, as I said before, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing this Fantasyland music here. This I've played like 6 times now, but I'll just loop it one more time because clearly I didn't plan enough music to play anything else. Anyway, Disneyland Hotel, very comfortable stay, very inviting. The room was certainly cozy. It was very quiet there. I loved the view of the pool. Having close access to the monorail was wonderful. When I stay at the Grand Californian, which I love the Grand Californian, it's great to have walking distance to the parks from there, but having monorail access from Disneyland Hotel was really nice. It's a lot closer to the monorail than walking all the way to the parks. The overall retro feel of Disneyland Hotel is great. It's not overwhelmingly Disney everywhere. I mean, there is a lot of Disney, but it's like appropriate Disney. It's everywhere you go, everything is just subtly themed so that you can get that sense of everything that was has been created over decades of Disneyland history, get a feeling of all of that, but without, Mickey Mouse jumping around and being in your face all the time. It's sort of the retro feeling brought to today's audience with these classic Disney touches, but you don't have to know them to enjoy them. But if you do know what all these references are, you'll enjoy it even more. As I said, it is a very different feel than Grand Californian. Grand Californian has a feel of sort of almost a rustic luxury, not quite as much as Wilderness Lodge, though it's a very similar hotel from the same architect and everything. I would still prefer the Grand Californian over Disneyland Hotel just because I love that arts and crafts style. I love the look of the hotel. I love the giant lobby. The browns and the greens and sort of those hues are really nice, but Disneyland Hotel is now a close second, whereas it was a distant second before. They've done a really good job. I would say the downsides to the new Disneyland Hotel, if you will, is that it is still expensive. In fact, I think it's more expensive to stay there now than it was previously. Our room, on average, cost about $300 a night. And that was with the current promotional discount rate that was being offered as part of going in the off-season. So it was quite an expensive stay, as is the Grand Californian, so it's not for everybody. I was also a little bit disappointed that they didn't have the waterfalls running over the monorail slides all the time. In fact, they were running when we got there, and then they were running like one other time, and that was about it. I should mention on the price, by the way, we paid extra for being in the up-high pool view room. That was a premium, so that's why it was what we paid. There are slightly less expensive options available. But anyway, I was disappointed about the waterfall. As I said, without the monorail, if the monorail was down one morning when we were going to the parks, we actually did have to walk all the way to the entrance, so that was a little bit of a hassle. It's not that far to walk, but just a little bit. The main lobby of the Grand Californian is a wonderful place to hang out. You can sit and relax and sit by the fire, and lots of cushy couches. There really is no hangout area of Disneyland Hotel in the main lobby. The hangout area is really Trader Sam's or the pool area, and so that's a different feeling. And it's great that Trader Sam's is open late. You can get some food late at night and get some drinks and hang out, but it can get very, very crowded there, particularly on a Friday and Saturday, and you might show up and not be able to get in at all. Final downside to Disneyland Hotel, and really any of the Disneyland hotels, is that you have to pay for parking. Unlike out here at Walt Disney World, where there's ample parking everywhere and you can just kind of show up and drive in, out there space is a premium, and as such Disney charges it was $15 for us to park our car. We only had a car for one day, but yeah, so there it is. So I've talked far more than enough on the Disneyland Hotel, but as you can tell, I really enjoyed my time there. It was a really, really nice stay. I enjoyed it far more than the first time that we stayed there a number of years ago, and Disney has just done an incredible job in upgrading the hotel. As I've said already a few times, if you don't plan on staying at Disneyland Hotel, if it's too expensive, for any other reason, go visit it next time you're at Disneyland. For sure, go to Trader Sam's, go to Tangaroa Terrace, walk around, check out each of the towers, go inside the towers, explore. There is a lot to see, a lot to enjoy, even if you're not staying there. You won't have access to the pools themselves, but you can still see it, and it's a nice place. It's a great addition to the Disneyland Resort. Has that great Disney feel to it all. So There it is, Disneyland Hotel report. Next week on the show, I do plan on talking more about my trip to Disneyland beyond the Disneyland Hotel. Of course, I did much, much more than just stay at the hotel. I was in the theme parks for 2 days solid, and then a little bit on a third day as well, and I have plenty to share next week about that as well. And now, before we jump into listener feedback this week, let me put in a quick word about Lanyard Lab. This is what I do when I'm not doing Inside the Magic. It's what I do all day, Monday through Friday. Lanyardlab.com is the website for where you can design your own custom lanyards, whether you're looking to promote something or you just need to wear a name tag or an ID card around your neck. Custom lanyards, great way to do it. And you can customize it over at lanyardlab.com. Click on Get a Quote. Send all your details to us. We'll email you back with a price quote along with a design proof showing you just what your design will look like as a lanyard. And if you're happy with it all, you can purchase it right there on the website. Simple as that. One more time, it's all over at lanyardlab.com.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
Just a few emails to get to round out the show this week. First up is an email from John, who was following up on a previous email from somebody else. And John writes, to follow up from the question if there's any Lilo and Stitch at the Polynesian Resort, if you can get a dining reservation for breakfast at Ohana during your stay, Lilo and Stitch are among the characters for that character breakfast. Definitely doesn't mean the rest of the resort is Stitch-themed, but you can get a little feel for them there. John, good point. I know I had mentioned there was a little bit of Stitch to be found throughout the Polynesian for the person who was asking if there's a lot of Stitch there, and you're right, you can definitely find Lilo and Stitch, and that is a good way to do it, and you can't go wrong with eating at Ohana either. Thanks for that email. Next up, an email from Ian, who writes, I just wanted to comment briefly on all of the Tron discussion that was brought up in last week's listener feedback. I, too, agree with Tron having lots of potential for theme parks and beyond, and I'm confused as to why Disney seems to ignore the possible franchises like this one. I'm not exactly a huge Tron fan, but I would love to see more of it in the parks. I could see perhaps Disney Quest becoming something of a virtual reality grid with state-of-the-art virtual reality games and entertainment. I don't get why Disney continues to ignore the possibilities of this franchises like this, as well as The Incredibles and some of the older cartoons and projects. I'm absolutely sick of seeing anything Cars related, and would love for Disney to focus on something more substantial for a change. Ian, I completely agree, but I'm a sucker for anything Tron, of course. One of the reasons I wanted to go out to Disneyland last couple of days was to see Electronica over at Disney California Adventure for one final time, and before it goes away very soon to become the Mad Tea Party. And yeah, I hope Disney does something with Tron, hopefully somewhere in the United States parks, so that I can continue to see it. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about a third Tron movie anytime recently, so I'm at a loss too. Everything you said, I completely agree with. Next email from Scott, who writes, I enjoy the show every week. Little information, I found out that on February 29th, Disneyland kennels will be open 24 hours. Will open at 5:30 and close at 5:30 on March 1st, so that anybody has a dog or cat wants to go for 24 hours, they can. Scott, excellent little extra bit of information there. Of course, Disney that day, Leap Day this year, is going to be open. The Magic Kingdom, as well as Disneyland, are going to be open for 24 hours from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m., February 29th to March 1st. And you make a good point. What if people have pets and they can't get away for the 24 hours? Well, that's a good way to do it. Drop them off at the Disney kennel, because it sounds like they'll be open for 24 hours as well. Thanks for that. Couple more emails, one from Alicia, who writes, I'm curious if there are any 3D glasses sold, perhaps on Amazon, that would work in 3D movies in the parks. The glasses they provide don't work well for my kids. Alicia, most likely any of the glasses that you buy that are not active glasses. The passive glasses, the polarized glasses should, and I emphasize should, work well in the parks. There are, of course, potentially some subtle variations between polarization techniques and lenses and that kind of thing. But if you search online on Amazon, for example, as you said, look for passive glasses, polarized glasses, not the ones with the shutters in them, not the ones you have to recharge, not any of those expensive ones. You want the cheap polarized ones, the plastic ones, basically. Those should work, and you can probably find them in a whole bunch of different designs, not just sort of the boxy look that Disney seems to have for all of theirs. There are many other versions. In fact, I just saw a few minutes ago some really cool looking Marvel Avengers glasses that are going to be coming out when that movie hits theaters very soon. And there's going to be an Iron Man one and a Hulk one and a Captain America one and one other, I forget the other Avenger. But yeah, so those potentially could be ones that you could grab and take to the parks as well. You may not even have to go buy them. You could just go to your local theater, see a 3D movie, hang on to those glasses, and try those in the parks as well. No guarantees that they'll work perfectly because, like I said, there's some differences in technologies, but the worst case is that they don't work and you end up having to go grab the glasses in the park anyway. Last email, this message comes from James, and he's got 3 questions. One, he asks, I recently saw on Facebook something called Disney Inside Ears. Could you explain what this is and what it provides? Number 2, any news on the Aladdin stage show on the Disney Fantasy? And 3, thoughts on Epic Mickey 2? Well, James, number 1, I kind of already answered that at the top of the show. Inside Ears, sort of beta testing at this point, but basically an online Disney community, an official community for people to discuss Disney topics, mostly focused, or really all focused on the theme park. So that's essentially what that is and what it ultimately will become. Number 2, the Aladdin stage show on the Disney Fantasy. I haven't heard too much about that recently. The Fantasy certainly is getting closer and closer to its christening in just over a month, and then just about 2 months away from its maiden voyage. So I imagine we're going to see more and more about the Disney Fantasy ship very, very soon. But the Aladdin stage show I actually have not heard much recently about. And then Epic Mickey 2, I don't even know what to think there. Epic Mickey 1 was such a colossal mixed bag of good and bad and annoying and great, and I just hope they improve on what was not so great in the first Epic Mickey, and then it'll be even better this time around. So that is it for listener feedback. And that about wraps up show 356 of Inside the Magic. Next week, as I said here on the show, we're going to be talking more Disneyland. I have lots to share from that park, so be sure to come back for show 357 if you want to hear more from the other coast, the coast that I don't talk about quite as much. I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. And of course, if you're going to be in Orlando and you want to shop for theme park good collectible stuff, rarities, head on over to Theme Park Connection. Or if you're not going to be here, check out their eBay store. You can find out all the information at themeparkconnection.com. Be sure to visit us over at lanyardlab.com to see all the different styles and custom lanyard options we have available. You can request a price quote today to receive a free digital preview of your lanyard design. And of course, between episodes of this podcast, be sure to visit InsideTheMagic.net. It is your source for Disney and theme park news. You'll find all of our show notes, including links and background music listings, but more than that, all of our podcast videos, photos, news, articles, and so much more. Of course, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube as well to stay on top of all the latest Disney and theme park fun between all the episodes of this show. So thanks to all of you for listening and for watching each and every week. I had a lot of fun at Disneyland. Hopefully you had fun listening to the Disneyland Hotel review, and more to come from Disneyland next week. So that's about it for show 356. Have a magical week. Bye.